Hey Raiders fans, it is time to talk about the state of the Las Vegas Raiders because honestly, it feels like we're watching a train wreck in slow motion and nobody on that coaching staff seems to know how to stop it. Every week, it's the same story, just a different opponent, and yet somehow they manage to make it feel worse each time. Let's start by addressing what is going on with the leadership of this team. Pete Carroll, a coach who has won a Super Bowl, is currently steering this ship in the most baffling way imaginable. Week after week, we hear quotes that make you wonder if he even understands the level of professional football we're talking about. After a game where the team scored 14 points and accumulated a mere 156 total yards, he praises the team for communicating well and calls it a nice accomplishment. Are we serious? This is December in the National Football League, and somehow a game like that is being labeled a positive. It feels like a slap in the face to the fans, and honestly, it is. We have been waiting all season to see a team that plays with any kind of cohesion or identity, and instead, we are treated to excuses that make no sense for a professional football team. Watching this Raiders squad is like watching a little league team dressed in professional uniforms. You start to question whether the coach is treating this like a developmental experiment rather than a competitive league where people get paid millions of dollars to win. There's no continuity, no real strategy, and the rotations are chaotic at best. Quarterback and receiver changes happen seemingly at random. Players are swapped in and out without any sense of building chemistry or rhythm. One player might get a single quarter while another gets completely bench time. It is bewildering because when you watch a player like Darian Porter, who clearly shows promise, he doesn't get the reps he deserves. Meanwhile, others rotate in for seemingly no reason other than trying to create the illusion of progress. It's frustrating because you know these players are capable of more if only they were given a consistent chance to showcase their skills. Even when rookies like Kai Blue Kelly make big plays, the team doesn't build on it, choosing instead to continually experiment mid-season in ways that defy logic. It isn't just the offense that struggles. The entire organization is showing cracks that have been visible since day one of this regime. The offensive line, particularly, has been a disaster. Injuries have compounded the issue, and the lack of internal depth has been painfully exposed. Players like DJ Glaze regress instead of improve, and it becomes obvious that the roster management and coaching decisions are part of the problem. The offensive scheme is supposed to run the ball effectively. Yet in 10 games this season, the Raiders have been held under 100 rushing yards, which is simply unacceptable for a team that claimed the run game would be the foundation of its identity. When you draft a running back in the first round and spend top-tier money on the roster, you cannot have this happen repeatedly without it being a reflection on the coaching. Even the big names on defense are being mismanaged. Max Crosby, an elite edge rusher, was lined up at linebacker during a critical stretch, and it makes you wonder if the coaching staff is experimenting out of desperation or confusion. The level of incompetence here is staggering because we're not talking about a young coach still learning. We're talking about a Super Bowl winner with decades of experience, and yet the team is experimenting with positions and rotations in December, like at the preseason game. The coaching staff's inability to understand a roster and put players in positions to succeed is a major reason this team is losing, and it's why fans are frustrated beyond words. Offensively, Geno Smith has been under siege, and the poor protection from the offensive line has made it almost impossible for him to perform at a high level. In the last 4 weeks, without the presence of Jackson Powers-Johnson, the Raiders have allowed 25 sacks, a number that speaks volumes about the lack of preparation and adjustment from the coaching staff. When you combine a poor offensive line with inconsistent quarterback play, it's a recipe for disaster, and yet the organization continues to give vague explanations instead of making real changes. The reality is that both Pete Carroll and Geno Smith have failed to inspire confidence, and their inability to adapt has left this team floundering week after week. The fan base has noticed, and the consequences are evident. More away fans attended the recent game at SoFi Stadium than Raiders fans, which is unprecedented given the team's history. The frustration with Carroll and Smith is palpable, and it has permeated throughout the stands. Even players have reportedly said, that they prefer playing on the road because of the hostility directed toward the leadership and not necessarily the players themselves. This is a clear reflection of the disconnect between the coaching staff and the fan base. When leadership loses the locker room and the fans, it is a clear sign that major changes are necessary. At this point in the season, the discussion is no longer about potential or hope. It's about accountability. Pete Carroll's 2-10 record is the worst start by a Super Bowl winning coach in a first season with a new team since 1997. The team is lost, and the mismanagement is evident in every phase of the game. Draft decisions, player rotations, offensive strategy, and even game planning all highlight a lack of direction. Every week, you see the same mistakes repeated: poor run game performance, sloppy quarterback execution, over-rotated and underutilized talent, and a lack of adjustments. There is no sense of progression or improvement, which is unacceptable at the professional level. Even the offense, which should have had more weapons and flexibility, has been a disaster. Players drafted high and given significant opportunity have not been utilized efficiently. Second-round picks are rotated inconsistently, while other receivers are given inconsistent reps, and rookies with potential are barely given the chance to find a rhythm. Concussions and injuries have further complicated the situation, but the lack of planning and foresight is the primary reason the team continues to struggle. It's a season filled with frustration for fans who expected at least some semblance of competitive football from a team with significant talent and resources. The rotation of players is another source of chaos. Instead of building consistency, the staff appears to make decisions based on experimenting for the sake of appearances. Receivers are shuffled in and out. Offensive line players are not given roles that suit their strengths, and a quarterback is left to manage a collapsing structure around him. There is no continuity, no trust in the system, and no apparent vision for long-term success. Each week, the team seems to be learning the roster from scratch, despite the fact that this is months into the season and the coaching staff has had an entire offseason to familiarize themselves with their players. At its core, the Raiders season under Pete Carroll has been a mess of mismanagement, poor decision-making, and lack of accountability. Fans are frustrated, players are being misused, and the leadership continues to offer vague and tone-deaf comments that fail to address the reality of the situation. It is abundantly clear that changes are necessary. And at this point, patience has worn thin. Every game brings more evidence that the current direction is unsustainable and that a new approach is needed if the Las Vegas Raiders hope to become competitive again. Continuing from where we left off, it is impossible to overstate just how chaotic this Raiders season has been. Every week feels like a struggle just to understand what is happening on the field, and more importantly, why. Watching the team operate under Pete Carroll is like watching a well-funded experiment where no one knows the formula. It is clear that the coach is guessing more than he is executing, and the players are suffering for it. Every game brings a new set of rotations, random substitutions, and baffling decisions that seem to have no connection to logic or strategy. A player will be inserted for a quarter, another will barely touch the field, and somehow, these choices are being defended as a plan. But there is no plan. There is only confusion, and the results speak for themselves. The quarterback situation is perhaps the most glaring symptom of this dysfunction. Geno Smith, who should have at least some measure of protection and support from his coaching staff and offensive line, has been left to navigate collapsing pockets and mismatched blocking schemes. 25 sacks in the past 4 weeks, in the absence of key players like Jackson Powers-Johnson, highlight just how vulnerable he has been. Yet the coaching staff does little to adjust, as if hoping the problem will solve itself. The combination of a struggling quarterback and a mismanaged roster creates a feedback loop of poor performance. Fans see it, players feel it, and yet somehow, the leadership continues to make decisions that defy logic. The offensive line, already riddled with holes, has been exposed repeatedly. Injuries, poor draft decisions, and questionable coaching have left this group underperforming in every game. The lack of development and proper utilization of players has prevented the team from establishing any kind of offensive identity. Each week, it seems like the same mistakes are repeated, with no learning, no adjustments, and no consistency. The inability to run the football effectively compounds the problem. Despite claiming the run game would be a foundation, the Raiders have been held under 100 rushing yards in 10 different games this season. This is not a matter of bad luck. It is a direct result of mismanagement. Meanwhile, the wide receiver rotations are chaotic, leaving players without a chance to develop chemistry or rhythm. Jack Besh, a second-round pick who has shown clear promise, is not given the reps he deserves, while others are rotated in and out without clear reasoning. Rookies like Darian Porter show flashes of potential but are left underutilized, which stunts their development and leaves the team without reliable options. The constant shuffling of personnel makes it impossible for anyone to build confidence or momentum, and it is deeply frustrating for fans who watch week after week, hoping for some sense of structure or progress. Defense is not immune to the disarray either. Max Crosby, one of the league's premier edge rushers, has been misused, even lining up at linebacker during critical moments. This is not a matter of experimenting for growth. This is mismanagement at its highest level. A player of Crosby's caliber should be in a position to dominate. Yet instead, the coaching staff's indecision forces him into situations where his strengths are not utilized. Watching this play out is infuriating because it is clear that the problem is not the talent. It is the leadership. The fan base has reacted accordingly. The recent game at SoFi Stadium was a stark illustration of the disconnect between the team and its supporters. More away fans than Raiders fans in attendance is almost unheard of, and it speaks volumes about the frustration that has been building over the season. The hostility in the stands is not directed solely at the players. It is aimed squarely at Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. Fans feel betrayed by the lack of progress and the endless cycle of excuses, and their frustration is palpable. This level of discontent among supporters reflects a deep erosion of trust in the leadership and the direction of the franchise. Pete Carroll's inability to manage the roster effectively is evident in every aspect of the game. Draft picks and high-value players are rotated inconsistently. Offensive schemes are poorly executed, and the lack of adjustment to injuries or underperformance creates a team that is constantly on the back foot. Carroll has openly admitted that he was still learning the roster months into the season, which is astonishing for a coach of his experience. By this point, the expectation is that a coach should know the strengths and weaknesses of his players, yet this team operates as though it is still in a preseason phase. Off-field issues also compound the problems on the field. Leadership within the organization appears fragmented, with finger-pointing and blame-shifting undermining any hope of cohesive decision-making. When accountability is absent, it trickles down to every level of the team, creating confusion and inconsistency. Players are left to adapt to constantly changing strategies and unclear roles, which hampers performance and development. The Raiders' struggles are not a result of talent alone. They are the result of a leadership structure that has failed to provide clarity, direction, and effective management. Even with all these challenges, the team's roster does have potential. Certain rookies and young players have shown glimpses of what could be developed into reliable contributors. However, their growth is stifled by the constant lack of rhythm and inconsistent usage. The offensive line needs urgent attention, and the quarterback situation cannot be salvaged without substantial changes in coaching and scheme. The current regime, which has promised a run-focused, competitive team, has yet to deliver on any of these fronts, and the longer this persists, the more difficult it becomes to reverse the downward spiral. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Tyreek Hill's name has started to echo through Las Vegas with a force that feels almost unreal, as whispers grow louder about what many insiders are calling the biggest signing in Raiders history. The team has long craved a superstar capable of reshaping not only its offense, but its identity. And the arrival of Hill has sent shockwaves across the league and stirred an electric kind of disbelief among fans. No official details have surfaced, and the organization maintains an unusually tight-lipped posture, but the buzz around team headquarters suggests that something seismic has already shifted behind the scenes. Those close to the situation describe an atmosphere of controlled chaos, with coaches privately marveling at the idea of pairing Hill's explosive speed with the team's already bold offensive ambitions. Some staff members have been spotted studying film in late-night sessions, and players have been overheard exchanging excited, almost incredulous reactions in the locker room. One source hinted that play designs are quietly being adjusted, routes redrawn, timing recalibrated, subtle but telling signs that the team is preparing for a weapon capable of altering defenses the moment he steps onto the field. Around the city, fans gather in bars and training facility parking lots, trying to confirm what seems too huge to be mere speculation. Conversations spill into the streets, fueled by the notion that Vegas has finally secured a headliner fit for its dramatic flair. Even rival analysts appear rattled, acknowledging that if the rumors hold, this move could redefine an entire division's power structure. Whether this monumental acquisition will transform the Raiders in the way many hope remains to be seen, but the excitement is undeniable. For now, the city hums with anticipation, caught between disbelief and euphoria, as the legend of this historic signing continues to grow with every whispered conversation. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.